Bum-ba-da-dum! Howdy, welcome to BanjoBenClark.com. I am Banjo Ben, your humble host here on the website that teaches you how to play guitar, banjo, and mandolin each and every week. I just taught a Doc Watson style guitar break to Shady Grove, and I had an overwhelming persistence on my Facebook page to teach it on mandolin and banjo as well, and that's what we're doing. But it's more than just teaching a solo. We're going to start out with a basic melody, and then we're going to incrementally add little tricks and embellishments to build it up to a solo that's a little more thicker, a little more robust. And so rather than just learning a solo, we're going to learn how to build a solo and also how to take those over to other songs that we're trying to learn as well. If you're watching here on Facebook or YouTube, here in a moment, I'll ask you to go over to the site, BanjoBenClark.com, where you can join as a Gold Pick member, have access to hundreds of videos just like this. I put them out each and every week, as well as tabs. So I have the PDF and the TEF file tab to this one exactly as I played it. And I also have 4 different rhythm track MP3s that you can download and practice along with, as well as the 30-minute video lesson. I'd be honored to have you on board. Let's dive into measure 1 of Shady Grove on the mandolin. We're going to learn a solo to Shady Grove, but we're actually going to do much more than that. We're going to learn and work on how to build a break. And so we're going to do something that I would advise you to do with any song that you're trying to learn, and that's to strip it down to the very basic melody. And then we're going to figure out places where we can add stuff. So we're going to start adding slides. We're going to start adding harmonies, and then we're going to also just figure out places to add little melodic licks to really build this solo. Now, we're basing the basic melody and the chord progression off of a guitar version that I did that was a Doc Watson style lesson, because there's lots of different ways to play and sing Shady Grove. I've heard lots of different ones. So if you haven't watched that one, it might be good to go back and watch that. We are in the key of D minor. And as I said, we're going to start out with a basic melody. So let's go ahead and throw that tab up there. First thing you'll notice, besides the notes, is that beneath each one of the notes, I've got little pick direction arrows. So a down arrow would mean a down stroke with our pick hand, and an up arrow would mean an up stroke. And it's really common and very basic counting throughout this song. We've just got quarter notes, eighth notes, and half notes. Now we're going to start with a little pickup at the end of measure 1. On the 3rd beat, on the 2nd fret of the low G string. So 2nd fret and then 5th fret. And then as we get into measure 2, we're going to start the melody, Shady Grove, my little love. And one thing that we're going to use quite a bit throughout the song is a shuffle pattern with our right hand. And a shuffle pattern is a familiar term for fiddle players. But it sounds like this. Okay, so it's a quarter note, 2 eighth notes, another quarter note, 2 eighth notes. We're going to use it and a variation of it all throughout this song, and that's what we do in measure 2. Quarter note, 2 eighth notes, quarter note, 2 eighth notes. And then measure 3 is very simple. We're just walking right down the scale. 2nd fret, open, 5th fret, and then we're going to start climbing back up the melody. Shady Grove, I know. So quarter note, 2 eighth notes, 2nd fret and 5th fret. Now on the website I have a video where I play the whole thing through painstakingly slow. I'm not going to play it that slow here, but let's just play measures 1 through 4 just to give us some context, remind us what we've learned. Now as we get into measure 5, Shady Grove, I know, that's just a long no note. So we're going to do that shuffle pattern again just to fill some space. And then in measure 6, Shady Grove, my little love. So we're going to play those exact melody notes, starting out with the open A string, then 5th fret, then 3rd fret, 2 eighth notes on the A string, measure 7, 5th fret on the D string, 2nd fret, then rest on the 5th fret of the G string for a half note. and I'm bound to go away. So measure 8, 2nd fret, 5th fret, then 2/8 notes, and back to the 2nd fret. So measures 5 through 8 slowly sound like this. Now we're going to land on that open D string, measure 9, and that's the first half of the solo. A Shady Break solo would be 16 bars long. Okay, and so I've got 2 complete solos here, 32 total bars of solo. However, after each 8-bar phrase, I'm going to add a little bit to it each time. Okay, so this time when we go back into it, we're going to keep that basic melody that we just learned, but we're going to add some slides, and this is a really, really cool way to dress up any break that you might have. We got the same 2 pickup notes at the end of measure 9 that would coincide with the measure 1. So I invite you to print out this tab if you haven't already. But we got those 2 little pickup notes. Now if you remember, whenever we started into the melody in measure 2, we just did a regular shuffle pattern on the D string. Well, if you look at measure 10, we do the same thing, but we add something, and it's a slide. So anytime that we're playing our open strings, okay, we can find that same note at the 7th fret above it. Okay, so there's a D note, but if I played my G string at the 7th fret, it happens to be a D note as well. So one thing we can do to add a little power to our playing is to play that 7th fret along with the open D string. Should be the same note if your mandolin's in tune. Okay, and then one way we can get there to accentuate it is to come down to the 5th fret and slide. So play through both strings, the G and the D string, and then slide to the 7th fret. And then we'll play them both together. It's just a little bit more powerful than just going. You hear that? Now at the end of measure 10, we're going to play those 2/8 notes, and I'm going to come off of it because I'm getting ready to go back and play the 2nd fret in measure 11, which is exactly the same as the first time we played through it. But now here I have another opportunity in measure 12 to do another slide to add a punch in there, so I'm going to do it. We're climbing up the melody, and then measure 13, Shady Grove I know. That's where we just did that shuffle on the regular A string. Well, this time I can slide into it on the D string just like we did on the G string. Okay, the measure 14 is exactly the same as what we learned in measure 6 as well as measure 15. And nothing else changes throughout the rest of this solo because there's no opportunity to slide into one of those notes. So we get to measure 17 and we're getting ready to start the 2nd complete solo. And we're going to keep the slides that we just added, except now we're going to add a few harmony notes and talk about how to find harmony. Let's do that next.